special guest with me, somebody who has been working tirelessly across states, getting the GST to, go ahead with various policies in terms of tax proposals. Mr. Sanjay Malhotra, the India's Revenue Secretary. Welcome, sir. I just wanted to know it was a path-breaking decision of the GST to decide to tax online gaming to 28%. It must have been difficult to come and arrive at this consensus.
Yeah, the online gaming taxation on the GST has been a long pending issue. It's been there for more than 2.5 years. But even I was surprised that the decision actually was absolutely, insofar as online gaming is concerned, it was absolutely unanimous. And it was well thought out, it was well deliberated, and a lot of consultation happened, prior to that. The GOM was constituted under the Chief Ministership of Meghalaya, and so they went around, the country. They met various stakeholders, including the online gaming fraternity, the industry. And so it's as a result of this, this extensive deliberations and consultation that this decision was arrived at.
And have you been able to decide whether it will be taxed at the entry level or at every bet pool, or at the what will be the entry amount? How is it going to work out around, in real terms for those who are in this gaming system?
That's a good question actually, and I think that is the question which has been troubling the gaming industry. The gaming industry, they have various federations. All of them have met me. They have met others. We have taken their request on board. We are deliberating. The decision will be taken actually by the council. The officers have met. There are pros and cons both ways as to whether we tax it at the entry level itself or we tax each and every bet. The taxation, as has been claimed by the gaming industries, becomes very high in case it is taxed at each and every bet. Well, that fact is true. It's a fact. It's true. And that will certainly be taken into account when the final decision on this is taken. It is not for me to take this decision. This decision is actually to be taken by the council. But one thing is sure, what the council has already decided is that it will not be on the GGR. It will be 28%, and it will not be on the GGR, it will be on the face value. Now, whether the face value question that you have asked, whether that face value will be at entry level or whether it will be at each bet, that is a question which a final call will have to be taken by the council, and it will be taken shortly.
And there are some who fear that there can be double taxation. Is that a correct fear in terms of the online gaming?
It depends on how you look at it. If you look at it from a real money point of view, then well, yes. But if you treat virtual money in the form of tokens, chips, or whatever name you may give it, then and that virtual money is actually convertible into real money. And if one is looking at the virtual money being taxed, then it is not double taxation. But in terms of real money, then of course, yes. I mean, one can say that it is kind of a double taxation.
Okay. The other issue, you have seen from your parent department, MeitY, which has been in consultation with you, same government, and you've heard Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar also speak about it, on the rules. There are a lot of concerns that they've raised. How far and where are you going to be able to meet, their concerns? Because after all, this is an intra-government issue. And ultimately, as you said, this was built with a lot of consensus at the GST with states. How are you going to address those concerns?
Well, as of now, we have not got anything in writing from the.
But you'll have had discussions. You'll have had informal. Yeah.
Yes, I mean we do interact with them. We were even in their interministerial committee, which had then finalized the regulations for the gaming industry. but we have not got anything in writing from them. As and when it comes, it will be looked into, it will be examined. However, I may say that they have been trying to distinguish between permissible games and games which are not perhaps permissible or recognized. Now, well, see, the games have to be permissible. If a game is not permissible, then it cannot be played because it is not as per the law of the land. So it has to be as per the law of the land, and it has to be a permissible game. I think the moot question really is not whether a game is permissible or not, because a game has to be permissible. The question is as to whether the game is the purpose of the game. Whether the game is a sport, whether it is an entertainment, or whether it is a recreation, and how do you distinguish between these different kind of games. So the council has very consciously said and decided that games or sports which are not played for money are going to be taxed at 18%, whether they are online or they are offline. So those games continue to be taxed at 18% when they are not played with money or with stakes. For example, chess, if one is playing chess online or otherwise, then and one pays an entry fees to it, then there is going to be an 18% taxation. It's only those other games which are played for money that the taxation of 28% comes in. So it is this difference, I think, which is more important rather than whether a game is permissible or not.
And I think that you'll be able to explain to the IT ministry and sort this out, because I mean ultimately I think there has been a lack of communication, I would suppose, that between the revenue and the committee on this concerns, because I think a lot of people are also sending memorandums not only to you, to the finance minister, to the prime minister, because they have those concerns. How do you
No, I have met the industry, and I think these concerns, their concerns, as I mentioned, will be taken on board, and we should be able to arrive at a solution which is acceptable largely to the all stakeholders.
So there won't be a change on stand, that 28% will remain as per the GST Council. There won't be a change.
As long as the GST Council doesn't decide otherwise, it will be 28%.
Staying on the GST, sir, a lot of rationalization was expected, and it was meant to be a game changer for India in terms of increasing GDP. Somewhere down the line, it's been successful, and we see every year, every month when you give tax collections, we're nearly hitting the 2 lakh crore mark. So in a sense, it has really improved. But somewhere down the line, the common man still gets very badly affected, and there was that demand for rationalization. Do you see that happening in the immediate future, or you'll have to wait till the next general elections?
A lot of work has already been done. There is a GUM on the rate rationalization, which looks at inverted duty structures. It looks at rate rationalization in general, and their last recommendation has been acted upon. The GUM right now is in for a restructuring or a reconstitution because of the change in government in Karnataka. As and when that happens, the GUM will restart its work, and basis that we can look forward to other changes.
So when you say rate rationalization, how many slabs would you really envisage? Because right now there are around 4, and it can get complicated.
That is for the GUM to take a call right now. I mean, there is no recommendation from the GUM. There is no work that has happened on this, so it will be a little premature for me to say.
And won't happen immediately right now. It will
probably take some time. Certainly, it will take some time. Yes.
The other issue, sir, on GST is tax evasion, and I know you have been struggling and you're the tough man job who's trying to ensure evasion doesn't take place. Duplication of invoices that have taken place. But yet, you haven't succeeded in getting, even though there has been a huge evasion, only 10% has been, as you have said in Parliament, you have been able to collect. Why is that? What's the reason?
I think the 10% that perhaps you are referring to is the 10% of the evasion. Because see, once evasion happens and money, moves it's so easy now to transfer money, because it's online, even through cash and otherwise. So once there is a tax evasion, it is very difficult to recover it. So the effort really has been and will be that the tax evasion does not happen in the first place. And so we are tightening our systems without, of course, in any way inconveniencing the honest taxpayers. So registration, a few decisions have been taken on registration so that the bogus firms do not first of all originate, and if they are there, then they are not able to create fake invoices. So a lot of decisions have been taken by the council. I am pretty confident that in another 1 year or so, we should be able to plug these, I would not call it loopholes, because these were certain flexibilities that we had given for the honest taxpayer when the GST was being rolled out, because we wanted it smoother for them. But now that the industry has become used to it, we'll tighten it so that the honest taxpayer is already used to it. He will not be put to any burden. But that flexibility which was being misused by the fraudsters, that they will not be able to create and generate fake fake invoices and pass on fake bills and evade taxes.
So streamlining will take place, but difficult to retrieve the money that has already been evaded at the present.
That's always difficult. That is always going to be difficult, and that's why you see even when we give out answers to Parliament questions or others, that there is huge demand which is pending, and it is pending because the evasion has been detected. So that demand is there, but we are unable to recover it because obviously the money has fled from the businesses which were supposed to pay those taxes.
The government has said that they will, on international credit cards, anybody above 7 lakhs will not be counted under LRS. After October 1st, credit card international spends will be taxed at 20%. Any rethink on that, or what's the complete clarity on that issue vis-a-vis credit card spending as well as
no, credit cards is not my area actually. That is for the DA to decide. So credit cards as of now are any spends on credit cards outside the country are not under the LRS, but other spends are very much under the LRS irrespective of the 7 lakh limit. It is certainly under LRS provided the remittances are for certain reasons, for certain purposes. Ordinary purchases for imports, like if one is taking a subscription of say a sports channel or a news channel or the media, those kind of purchases are not under LRS. It is only remittances when made for the purposes of investments, for the purposes of education, or for tourism or travel or medical purposes. It's only those that are counted as LRS. Ordinary purchases are not counted as LRS, and only if it is beyond 7 lakh does it get taxed. So this 7 lakh limit actually comes in for the purposes of TCS, tax collection at source, which is different for different things. For education we have not made any changes. For medical we have not made any changes. It continues to be 5%, and it is only for others that we have made it 20% when it is beyond 7 lakh.
Because there was an attempt to send money abroad, and that is the reason why
because we did find a lot of cases where people had remitted lots of money abroad, especially for purposes of investment, and that is what we thought should be we should get the tax upfront rather than wait for the taxes later.
Coming to sir, important issues in terms of revenue, you have now going to be what I would say the most difficult position, because when the economy globally is not going to do well and India seems to be the silver lining, lot of pressure on you in terms of taxation and to keep the economy continuing. Will you attempt to lower excise duty on energy, on petrol, diesel? That's been a continuous demand that has come. Is there, and especially since we are in an election year, is there a possibility of some kind of rapprochement on this issue?
We already reduced excise duties twice, and that was at a time, when the crude prices were at a peak. The crude prices have after that softened. They were now they are, at about $80 or so per barrel. And so at this stage there is no there is no proposal to actually further reduce, because the prices have already softened. The revenues otherwise are, of course, quite okay as compared to what the GDP is doing. The GST collections grew at about 12%. Direct taxes have grown at about 16%. The economy is doing well. We are hopeful that we should be able to meet our revenue targets.
So there is a tax buoyancy, and you don't see any cause of concern at this present, because we're now nearly 6 months down the line in terms of things. So you're quite confident?
Yes, as of now we are very confident that we should be able to meet the revenue targets given to us. The economy, as I said, is doing well. Inflation is within the RBI range. The target band of 4 to 6%, it's within that, about 5%, 4.8%. And the current account deficit is good. The crude prices, are reasonable levels.
And you don't need to lower energy, as you said. There's no need to.
And there is no need, to now further lower the excise duties over there. So the economy is expected, more or less, the revenues are going to do, as well as or slightly. I'll be happy, if we get a buoyancy of more than 1. Anything more than 1. Of course, we did, in GST we did about 1.25 last 5 years, 1.4 last 2 years. And the tax to GDP and the buoyancy on the direct taxes has also been more than 1 for 6 out of last 7 years.
Which is quite
other than the COVID year. So now to expect a buoyancy of those kinds, 1.2 and onwards, year on year is going to be very difficult, because you can't produce money out of nothing. I mean, you can tax only to the extent that the GDP grows. So I'll be happy if we get a buoyancy of anything more than 1, which we are hopeful we should get.
So the OECD has been talking about a minimum global tax. Are you in agreement with them? Can we move towards that, especially big multinational corporations? What's your view on that?
There is already an agreement which was reached in October 2021. Government of India is a signatory to that. And the final contours are now being discussed. We are hopeful that the final details will be finalized by the end of this year. It's a priority area for us also, and for the G20 presidency of India, and we are striving that we reach a consensus by the end of this year.
One final question, sir, which is a common, it affects you and me and everybody else, tax returns. Is there are you going to keep the deadline of 31st July, or is it going to be extended, or do you see no reason for extending it at this present juncture?
As of now, we are 4 days ahead of last year. The returns, we have got about 4 crore of returns. We had got these number of returns 4 days later than, so today is 25th, these kind number of returns we had got on 29th. So we are already doing better than last year, and we don't see any reason why the deadline should be increased. So I'll urge, through your medium to all our taxpayers who are watching this program, that they should not expect any extension, and they should hurry up and they should file the tax returns and not to wait for the last day.
Thank you. A pleasure to speak to you.
Pleasure.